Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, dear students? Today we'd like to talk about the two sentence structures with relevance to the verb. So it is the continuity of the previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we did study about the action and non-action sentences, which are these two, one and two kinds of sentences according to the verb. Then we did discuss the common mistake, that how we were using a linking verb in action sentences and we need to avoid it. Then we discussed two main verbs, which were action verb and linking verb, and we tried to discuss the difference between these. If you have missed the previous one, go through the previous lecture. Now these two types I'll discuss in detail their structure wise. We have already discussed the subject and predicate. Now in the predicate area, whatever we have and whatever is possible, we are going to discuss those things. So in the predicate area, there may be a subject complement, object complement, adjunct. So we are going to discuss in this lecture. Now let's start with these two kinds of sentences, action and non-action sentence. These first two examples of action sentence that we have studied in the previous lecture means you eat apples, I write letters. Here we know after you is the predicate. Here we know after I is the predicate. Now in this sentence, eat is the verb and here write is the verb. And in predicate we have two things, one verb and one object. Similar is here. So this is a kind of action sentence where we need object. Sometimes we don't necessarily need object, then we use the adjunct. Here this is another action sentence where I have written we laugh. So that this is a complete sentence. Like he lives is a complete sentence, they sleep is a complete sentence. In America, if we are adding, this is extra information, we are adding an adverb. At night we are adding an adverb. So this is extra information which is not necessarily required. So the information which is not necessarily required, we laugh at him, for example. So now this at him is not necessarily required, we laugh at is also complete. So this at him in America and at night are adjunct because these are not necessarily required. Now let's talk about the second kind of sentence where something is necessarily required. That is called complement. Like in this sentence, they are students, you are engineers, she's a girl, we were sad. Here these students, engineer, a girl and sad are necessarily required. So these are the complements. Let's go in the detail of this action and non-action sentence on the basis of complement and adjunct. So now you can look at these sentences. They are, you are, she is, we were. Like here, if we are not adding these words, student, engineer, girl and sad. So do you think, are they making sense, these first four? Then look at these three. We laugh, they sleep, she plays. What do you think, they are making sense? So you can see these first four, this group doesn't make us any sense unless we have anything at the end of these sentences. While these are making sense, if we are adding up something, that will explain something extra, and if we are not adding, they are giving us complete sense. So here whatever we are putting, we will call that as an adjunct, and here or modifier, or here whatever we are putting, that will be a complement, that is a necessary requirement. So now let's move on. Now in these sentences we need a complement which is necessarily required. In these sentences we need an adjunct don't need anything which is necessarily required. So the adjunct is a thing which is not necessarily required, which can be called modifier, which modifies the sentence further, which gives us more clarity, but it is not necessarily required. Whereas complement is the part and parcel of a group of words or a sentence. If we are not adding up in the sentence, then sentence is not complete. Now, what kind of adjuncts are available there? Here, adjunct may be a noun phrase, maybe an adjective phrase, maybe an adverb phrase, maybe a preposition, maybe a prepositional phrase, whatsoever it is. Adjunct or modifier may be any of these, or maybe more than these as well. But complement, which we have already discussed, is a necessary part of a sentence. It may be only noun or adjective. We will discuss in detail later on. First, we would like to talk about different kind of complements. So one is subject complement and other is object complement. Now, why we are studying this complement and adjunct difference, and why we are focusing on complement, which we have started from two kinds of sentences from the verb? Because in the previous lecture I have discussed sometime in action sentences we use linking verb, that is a mistake, and sometime in action in non-action sentences in the place of complement we try to use an adjunct, which is misfit over there. So this is a very common error in our sentence making. So we are trying to learn the basic sentence making, we are trying to perfect it, that's why we are learning, and we want to learn about these grammatical categories of subject, object, complement and adjunct. Another thing, we are further analyzing the predicate part. So what may be the possible aspect of that, that's why we are studying. So now we will specifically discuss why we are studying the complement and what kind of common error may occur. So I told you in adjunct there may be anything, but in subject and object complement it's not like that there may be anything. So the main problem is the use of adverb. A complement may be an adjective, a noun or pronoun, but it can never be an adverb. So here we can see in these example, the garlic has made the soup awfully, whereas the second one is the garlic had made the soup awful. Now here we can see an object complement cannot be an adverb. This one is wrong. Why wrong? This is wrong due to this word awfully, and awfully is an adverb, whereas the second one here, this is right. Why this is right? Because this direct object, the soup, is receiving a complement, and complement is an adjective. So here awfully cannot be used, which is wrong, and we can't use an object complement, an adverb as an object complement, but we can use an adjective as object complement. So that's what we can say. Now the second one that we were talking about, which is subject complement, we cannot also use adverb as subject complement as well. So adverb cannot be used as complement. This is the main thing. So here we can have a look at this example of subject complement as well. The soup tastes awfully. Now this is wrong because we again have used this adverb as a subject complement, whereas in second one the soup tastes awful. Here awful is an adjective and this is a subject complement. So here this is the correct one. So usually we are more conscious and we are making this kind of mistake. That's why we are learning this. So by now we can point out what is the key point of so far discussion is that the complement can't be an adverb, can never be an adverb. She looks amazingly and she looks amazing. So though you know or you don't know about the sentence structure, but if you know English a bit better, you can easily say that this one, first one, she looks amazingly, your intuition must say is not correct, whereas she looks amazing looks correct. So amazing is an adjective and amazingly is an adverb. That's what we are trying to say, that we can never use an adverb as a complement. Now let's move on and try to learn about the difference between subject and object complement as well. So subject and object complement, they can be noun or adjective, that I have already told you, both. Now first, what is subject complement? A subject complement is the adjective, noun or a pronoun that follows a linking verb. Now that's what I was talking about earlier on. So usually we were using the linking verb in action sentences, which was wrong. So we can here say quite easily, wherever we can found a subject complement, we can say a sentence with subject complement is non-action. This is another assumption is going to be true that we discussed in the last lecture. So here the second one is also non-action, because a linking verb always take an adjective and or a noun or a pronoun or a noun phrase or adjective phrase to complete its sense and meaning, and it never takes a verb in it. So we can say a non-action sentence has a subject and its predicate is basically consists on necessarily on a linking verb and complement and subject complement. So this is the clarity that I want to give you, and it is linked with the previous lecture. Now let's try to discuss in these sentences. They are engineers. So this is a non-action sentence, and engineers is a complement that we have discussed. It necessarily required in this sentence. They are is not a complete sentence, and this is a non-action sentence as well. Now engineer is a noun, and here we have used noun as a subject complement. Then in the second sentence, she is naughty. Now again, she is requires a complement. Without a complement, she is not complete. So now naughty is a complement and naughty is an adjective. So here we can say that we have used an adjective as a subject complement, and this is also a non-action sentence. So now we have identified three things: a sentence structure of non-action sentence, and the predicate area of non-action sentence and action sentence are quite different. In action sentence, we have action verb, and then there may be adjunct or there may be complement. But in non-action sentence, we have a subject and there is a complement with a linking verb. So these are two different sentences. From the previous lecture you have learned, and it will clarify more, and hopefully you will not make this mistake anymore. So this was about subject complement. Now we would like to talk about object complement. Why I am clearing here action and non-action sentence? Because object complement may be found and usually found in action sentences, because there is an object, and object complement definitely necessarily requires an object, whereas subject complement necessarily requires a linking verb, and it is basically clarifying the meaning of linking verb, whereas Here we can see the non-action sentences more. They are engineers, they are civil engineers, a noun phrase. She is happy, the idea sounds great, and her Brenda's face will turn red. Now all these is sounds and turn are the linking verbs. And here we have adjectives and nouns which are completing it. Now let's move on to the object complement. Object complement is linked with an action sentence, and that is also in that action sentence the verb should be transitive verb, because and transitive verb is always an action verb. So object complement is the part of an action sentence like adjunct, because object complement always completes the meaning of an object. This is also a necessary requirement. So let's have a look at this sentence. An object complement is a noun, and this is like subject complement. Similarity is that it is also a noun, pronoun, or adjective, but it follows a direct object. It doesn't follow a linking verb. So this is the difference, whereas the content of subject and object complement may be same. It may be noun, pronoun, or adjective, but its function may vary. They are qualifying two different things. So chocolate makes Tanya happy. So here if you look at the sentence by Tanya, it doesn't look like complete. Chocolate makes Tanya makes what? So happy is completing it, and happy is an adjective here, and this is Tanya is a direct object, and this is completing the meaning of this object. So that's why this is an object complement. Here we can have a look on the different examples as well. So here the first example, we elected him prime minister. So now him is a direct object, whereas if we say only we elected him, it won't be complete. But if we are saying we elected him prime minister, now this is complete, and prime minister we know it very well is a noun. So here noun has been used as an object complement, whereas they consider my advice. Now my advice is basically direct object. It's noun phrase, and it is qualified, or its sense is being completed by the adjective. They consider my advice good, or they consider my advice fruitful. So good and fruitful are the adjectives which has been used as object complement. Now like this sentence, engineer is basically a subject complement. This is talking about this subject they. This is talking about they. This is talking about she. Happy is talking about she. The great is talking about this idea. So this idea, she, they are the subjects. And Brandon's face, red. This is talking about Brandon's face. So Brandon's face, this idea, she, and they are the subjects. And engineers, civil engineers, happy, great, and red are basically completing the requirement of these subjects. That's why these are the subject complements. Whereas in these sentences, the prime minister is not complementing we, it is complementing him. What we elected him prime minister. So that's why this is an object, and this is qualifying it. This is it completing its meaning. This is object complement. Here they consider my advice good. What was considered good? The advice was considered good. They were not considered good. So here this is not talking about good or fruitful, is not talking about them. This is talking about my advice, and whereas my advice is a direct object, and good is complementing the direct object, so that's why good is a object complement. So fine, let's have a look at few more examples of object complement. Here are a few more examples of object complements like this. We can say, I found the guard sleeping. I was not sleeping, the guard was sleeping. So the sleeping is object complement. We consider her unworthy. Unworthy, we were not considered unworthy, but she was considered unworthy. So that's why unworthy is basically the object complement. Sleeping is the object complement. I declare this center open. I am not declared open. This center is declared open. So accordingly, we consider fish spoiled. Here, this is object complement. To obtain man's opinion of you, make him mad. You make him mad. So you make him mad. You are not mad. You are the subject, whereas now this is then an object complement is not necessarily only one word. It could be a phrase. So here we can see the example of a phrase. We found the guard sleeping in the barn. So now this sleeping in the barn is a gerundive phrase, and gerundive phrase is a noun phrase. So this one is gerundive phrase or noun phrase is an object complement. We all consider her unworthy of the position. Now unworthy of the position is an adjective phrase. So this one is qualifying this her at the moment, which is direct object. So this is at the moment object complement. So now we have learned in this lecture about subject and object complement. But sometime here we were talking about direct object. This is direct object. This is direct object. Sometime students are quite confused about direct and indirect object. So here they may consider this prime minister as an indirect object, him as a direct object and prime minister as an indirect object. So how we can't confuse direct and indirect object with the object complement, and all this we will be going to study in the next lecture. So hopefully you have gone through the all lectures. Even now, if you have any kind of queries, you can ask me, and you must also go through the previous lecture to complete this course. And if you have any questions, you may ask me from the previous 5 lectures. So this is the 6th lecture or 5th lecture, but this is in continuity, and hopefully you have learned well. And in case of queries, you can discuss me in the live session or online as well. Thank you very much. See you in the next lecture. Bye.